over my screen the other day. That's the thing. I just don't know how to do it. It just does it with screen record. Oh, you're recording now, aren't you?
So now it's got me recorded. So that has the option gone for you to record?
Have a look. Yeah, I can't record through Skype, but I think I can record. I'm going to screen record and just see what happens, because that's not going to affect Skype.
Yeah,
let me try that. Start recording. Record audio. Oh, this is interesting. Mate, this was on my phone. Do you remember how much time we spent looking for apps like to try and do this? And the whole time on my phone, there was a screen record which records the audio. I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to start this now. So you're recording through Skype. I'm screen recording Skype. Everything hopefully will be fine. The only thing our subscribers are, our 2 subscribers in Milwaukee or wherever you guys are from, are missing out on is that foot story. I just told a really delicious story about the skin on the base of my feet, but you'll have to wait until another time for that full context, as we've.
I mean, you could retell it. I mean, you could.
I could retell it. It was only 3 minutes. I was just saying, it's lost the spark, though. It's lost that kind of that little, that bit of magic that you get from spontaneity. But basically,
first time magic.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't get that when you end up in bed with 49-year-old ladies in Rio.
Especially if they,
Huh?
Especially when they stink. Especially when they stink. Oh God.
Just don't understand. I had the same conversation with the hotel receptionist 3 days ago in Sao Paulo, and we were just talking about it casually, as like any men or women would do, and just like, why can't people have a shower? And do you know what's the worst part about this? I sound like such a whiny little teenager, but we were in a shower. We were in the shower, and I went in the shower to try and bring this lady into the shower because it's the right thing to do. Everyone should be clean, And she didn't want to have a shower. Women just don't like having showers. It's disgusting. Like, it really just understand. It really upsets me.
I mean, I'm wincing. A tear was formed in the corner of my left eye. So,
well, I'll make the tears form in the other eye now and tell you that the whole night when I met this person, this was a blocko in Rio, so it's already fucking baking hot. Everyone's dripping with sweat over hours and hours, and then like not to then have a shower. It's fucking disgusting. Anyway, though, I'm sure we've lost the last of our followers and listeners by now, so I won't bear the thought of telling you all about the feet incident. But our vloggy woggy of the day, our podcast episode 21, we think, is that correct? Is going to be on what? What's the topic of the day, James?
So people that have experienced living other lives, past life regression, kind of accessing, maybe some different plane, but people that have these experiences, there's lots that can segue off it. There's things that are linked to it, near experiences, spirituality, like psychosis. I mean, there's many things that are linked to it, but I think if we're gonna raise our awareness and go on like a deeper dive on kind of the actual makeup of our existence, this is like a good little topic to get into.
No, I agree. I think really it's the absolute ultimate directive, when you research and kind of take an interest, I guess, in truths, whatever they may be. I guess one of the main directions is, what is that which comes next? I mean, it's really the ultimate, one of the ultimate two, perhaps. Where have we come from? Where are we going? And I think this topic really touches on that quite nicely, because there's so many examples, there's so many books dedicated to this stuff, and I guess we'll go into, obviously, there's obviously falsities in there, there's lies, and there's stories used to create false narratives to almost arrest the truth and separate us from that correct pathway, just like they do with the news, with controlled opposition and whatnot. But there is certainly a truth there. I think it is very much. I wouldn't usually say this for most other topics, but I think it's very much a no for anyone to come out and say, "Hey, there's no such thing as something beyond," because there absolutely is.
Yeah, absolutely. And to an extent, one could say that it's, I mean, it's provable. I mean, because there definitely is, because definitely is. It's our opinion, but I mean, I would argue that it's provable that there is something else. What that is, and the veracity of people's anecdotal experiences is different. But yeah, there certainly is measured, tangible, uniform experiences that people tend to have. Which is fascinating. And there's an element to it that you touched on when we were talking about child geniuses, and how potentially that intellect is garnered from past experiences. People talk about old souls, and there's probably there's an element of these people who have been through many lives, whether it's hundreds or dozens or thousands. There's people that have experienced different eras, different genders, and that might explain. It's possible that when we see somebody who seems to have equally as masculine as they do a feminine disposition, it's like it could be that could potentially be a reason for it. Potentially, this is speculative, but
Or just like getting fucked in a dress.
That's also possible. Yeah, they could just be weirdos. Absolutely. They could absolutely just be weirdos. They could be cursed. They could have, some kind of genetic defects, or, this is something, spiritual, is incarnation of their being. Maybe they've lived 5 lives as feminine women and 5 lives as masculine men, and what you're seeing is, an incarnation of their spirit. And it's interesting that so many people that have had these different experiences have said that they've also been to a place where, constantly say this, where they kind of made a choice. They said that, they basically said that this is what they were gonna, come to this realm to experience. And there was an agreement on how many times they would, relive the experience, how many times they would return to, a physical realm on our timeline, the timeline of this realm. And it's it's a really interesting experience. I've been rambling on. Your take and your insight on this fascinating subject.
Well, I read a book on it, which was a collection of cases, and this is where it gets really Minority Report. I actually have my laptop here, but I haven't bothered to open it because I'm a lazy bastard, and it would have taken me 2 seconds to log into archive.org. So if the audience are there and they want to do this, my profile is actually public, so you can go archive.org, type in John05K1, and the book will be there. I can't remember the name of it, but like I said, it's a collection of investigations, and it's Minority Report-esque because there's actually an organization funded by trusts which gets into this whole fucking Men in Black kind of scenario where we're actually just living in potentially a matrix, and at the very least, we're in a world that's equal to the world of all else other. It's just that we're so far from understanding the depth, which is, I guess, the point of this topic and this episode, because out of all these investigations, they primarily came from Asia, mainly because, well, this is where the debate comes from, I guess. Is it because it's so difficult for this spiritualistic kind of aspect of our existence, that being the correlation, the relation, um, the deriving factor of some other kind of past entity in life. This seems more difficult to discern within a very westernized kind of economically prosperous and progressive society that's lost touch with kind of the religiosity that's needed to comprehend and understand and thus investigate these kind of matters. And consequently, and I hope I'm not tangenting this up too much, but the cases all seem to be orientated around places like India, where within Hinduism, of course, there's a strong sense of belief in everything that would appear to be balmy and crazed and, against the laws of science, as of course the pillar of so-called Western progressivism. And out of these cases, there were a lot of false ones, but when you looked at the ones that they shortlisted, bearing in mind that these organizations have been investigating for decades and decades and decades and decades, tens of thousands of cases, and they become such experts at discerning the difference between one with potential that could be truth and one that was clearly a lie, that everything that you see in the book has been shortlisted for a reason. And when you take out the ones that are shortlisted because they're, genius lies, they're, people that have actually invested in creating, just the kind of tales and stories for monetary gain, the ones that they have stamped as legitimate are so unbelievably real that the kind of environment that the children would come from, because often they're children that have these fresher memories, and there's that element of when you're a child you're more innocent because you're more in touch with those intrinsic factors of being, that spirituality, that energy, that in order to really kind of investigate these kinds of stories, they're usually directed at young minds, because the older we get, the more we kind of forget our memories and so on. But these kids sizably came from kind of like impoverished families, kind of sharecroppers out in rural India, illiterate families that wouldn't even be able to, should they even have wished to get some kind of money, they wouldn't even be able to concoct a story even a fraction of the complexity that it was successfully. And these things were just it's difficult because I don't have the stories in front of me, but when you see and read the tales, it's just not possible that they can be fictionalized. They can't be falsified. They can't be forgeries. They absolutely have to be legitimate. There's just too many variables that would have to be perfectly synchronized by the most intellectual characters with unbelievable capital and knowledge of how the investigations worked, which they would have no knowledge of and no context of, to even stand a chance of creating something that may breathe an element of truth and may get away with being stamped with the validity necessary for them to gain some kind of financial reimbursement. So yeah, I guess that would be the first kind of take, these kinds of tales of life memories.
So what I would say is that I think I'd say it's possible. It's definitely possible that it could be concocted, but I absolutely do not believe it's concocted. I believe that the stories are genuine.
Yeah.
And it also, once again, it's like it links in like the child, prodigy, from India, from a rural kind of, place that, was performing surgery, and, it's like, could that be knowledge, gained from, another timeline that, that existed in, and that's just like a incarnation of it. Also, India, the Far East. They've got like a history of Buddhism, amazing architecture and temples everywhere, and that was an intrinsic part of their culture. It still is to an extent, more so than in many parts of the world. But like spiritual, growth, like everything comes through, being worked on, developed, and honed to an extent. You know, when you look at cultures and civilizations, they've got what they've got through means, and things like meditation. There's a culture of yogis and meditation in that part of the world, in Nepal, India, Thailand, and in these sorts of places, through kind of constantly using that spiritual muscle, activating the pineal gland and the hypothalamus gland, and these things are activated through meditation. We know about kinetic energy, and how through our thought and our actions and our intentions we can change ourselves and change our mindsets, and through meditation you're able to access different levels of consciousness, at least, due to the reason why I think a lot of these cases are from that place is because of a culture of that. And then also you get curious cases in like rural parts of Europe. I think it's not so. It's places with absolutely, places with like a spiritual history, like in lots of parts of Eastern Europe. People are really religious, Catholicism, Christianity, Greek Orthodoxy, and all of these things practice, and people are constantly working on that spiritual muscle, whereas like in especially English speaking countries are probably the most spiritually devoid countries currently in terms of practice. In the Akashic records, which I believe have been accessed, and people don't know, the Akashic records are basically like genetic memory, genetic and spiritual memories. Essentially, your great 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 grandmothers, genes and memories, being passed on, stored, whether that's trauma, gifts, talents, tendencies, whatever it may be. Like, there's a lineage, and that's a genetic truth. We're made up of what came before in our line. That's absolutely undoubtable. So I think everybody in humanity's got it, but it just in recent times different cultures have focused on different things in the world in general, which is becoming less or more less spiritual or more spiritually devoid than ever. And I think that's a deliberate agenda, because knowing these truths are empowering, and I suppose it's the ultimate, as John opened with. This is like the ultimate, like, who are we? What are we? Knowledge of self is the most powerful thing, and they've been good at taking us off that track. A quick little segue, because everyone knows, people that have been listening from us the one, that we have a bit of numerology, and we love to talk about a certain group of people that tend to run the world. Anyway, I probably shouldn't have said that, but I said it.
We're not saying Jewish people run the world. We're saying that some people that run the world are Jewish. Now, the number of those people is up for debate. It could be a lot. It could be all. It could be most. It could be none. I will let the audience decide.
So, at the top of every food chain, so now we're going to go into the past life regression food chain. You've got all of these therapists. There's a guy at the very, 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 very top, and his name is Brian Leslie Weiss.
Nice.
Yeah. On Wikipedia, it says that he's an American psychiatrist. His nationality is American, his citizenship's American, but his surname is Weiss, which, you know, Germanic maybe, right? Weiss just translates as white in German. Nothing about his parents on his Wikipedia page, and this is a guy who is world renowned. All of his YouTube videos have 5 to 6 million views, 4 million views. And he's 79 years old, and he's been doing this for decades. He's been world renowned for decades, been on talk shows, famous talk shows in America, the whole lot. And nothing about who his family are. So, you do a little dig, and yep, he's, part of a religious group. Let's say he's part of a certain religious group. He's got that in his lineage, which is a recurring theme. But it gets more interesting when we get into the numbers. So he was born on November the 6th. November being the 11th month. 11/6. He's also born in 1944, which equates to 63, which could be incidental. He also graduated from Columbia University in 1966, of course. And this is the leader of this realm. This is like, I suppose, like a nominated leader in this field. I just find that quite interesting. That they literally find their way into everything.
Well, exactly as you said, they're nominated. They're given the positions. I mean, actors, musicians, we all know people are put on plinths irrespective if they have talent, whether they are the kind of forerunner in said industry. So that's why we always find these people, and then whether or not the numerology is applied thereafter, or they're given the position because of the numerology and because they happen to be a part of the cabal and they're in some kind of lineage or line or whatever. It is just how everything is manipulated, and this is another reason why one shouldn't trust kind of standardized protocols. The narratives given to us in schools and college, and TV, news, podcasts, whatever. It's all pushing us away from more important questions, because this is one of those subjects which you'd assume, given that they've been pushing the whole space narrative for such a long time, which is completely ludicrous, the idea that there's people up in the moon floating around fucking having spaghetti on their head. Because we're taught that that's the kind of the pinnacle of human exploration. Well, is it? I would beg to differ. I mean, if it's from a business perspective or moon landing scenario, why would you not go into something like past life regression, memories? Surely that is something that's going to affect more people, going to captivate their interest. The exploration of the origin of man, given that religion, for a very long time at least, perhaps not so much now, but it's certainly taken up the vast majority of the global population, whether it's Islam, Christianity, Hinduism. We know that these religions were concocted to dissolve a kind of true spiritualist formula, but nevertheless, absolutely, there's still more spiritualism and more kind of alignment to the exploration of said topic, the thing that we're discussing now, within the realms of religion than there is for those that don't have any religion at all, hence kind of Western, atypical, capitalistic, materialistic, consumerist society. These topics wouldn't have as much foothold, say, in, I don't know, downtown LA over, say, I don't know, a Brahmin community in India. So regardless of the fact that we know religion, modern religion, to be essentially a false parable, it's nonetheless inviting its subscribers to explore more than those without religion. And that's why people should be questioning why these subjects aren't looked into more, because not only would it be something that's seemingly logical irrespective of any scientific investigation, i.e. the idea that everything comes from something, everything has to progress. If you run enough, you become better. If you play tennis enough, you become better. If you study chemistry enough, you become better. The body as a machine works in the same such way. There is a progression. The Darwinian theory is, of course, a joke, but just like everything in occultism and masonry, They tell you the truth, but they simply express it in a way that only a certain few can understand. So the idea that we come from apes is, of course, ridiculous. But the idea of a kind of evolution is an absolute thing in life, because everything has reaching a higher level, a higher sphere, which is exactly what we do as as average people in society, right? You know, we go to school, we try and get a job, we try and get a better job, we try and make more money. This is what most people do. It's a progression. It's not obviously an intellectual progression for the most part, but it's still a progression, because that's what every living creature does. It's naturally competitive, and actually your life relies on development to survive. And that's why we have to come from somewhere. That's why it would only be logical for memory to be kept and stored, because value systems are never left to decay. They're always utilized at the very least, but often they're kept and stored for future, you know, just like a squirrel banks its acorns, just like people in New York like to have gold bars in Fort Knox. It's the same. It's very careful with the words there. You know, it's the same principle. You save things for a rainy day. And, you know, that's another, I guess, tangent we could go on. We won't, but we've spoken about it before, the fact that, you know, infinite resets are a derivative of an understanding of where society is going to be in 100 years, 200 years, 300 years, because the same things have happened 200, 300, 400 years before, because technology is kept for a certain few. And yeah, it's the same principle as genetic memory. You know, memory would keep itself for a future date. There's no reason to throw away something that has created value when it can still create further value. Hence our instincts, all the things that we do, our reflexes, when a baby grasps for the first time, when it breathes, when we know not to go into a certain alleyway, or we know that there might be a bear in the ravine. These are all instincts which derive from generational memory. There we go.
Yeah.
There's a mosquito looking at me. Sorry.
And like, so, yeah, and like knowledge of self, you know, is something that they definitely want to keep us away from, because, I mean, can you imagine like how capitalism and their grip hold would crumble when people realize that, well, yeah, like all this shit that we're doing, like watching Love Island and fucking going to Ibiza and, you know, just getting like wasted, or, you know, whatever it may be, actually doesn't really hold, you know, that much, you know, value, although it is fun.
Pizza recently though, James, not to interrupt.
Yeah, but yeah, I did about a year and a half ago. As I said, these things are fun. Yeah, absolutely, and I'll probably go again in the future too. But but you know, but the bottom line is that if you know that, you know, there's, you know, more out there, it's like you're not gonna put so much value on the things that they ultimately want you to put value on. Um, it's like, you know, like the foods that you eat and all of these things can take away from your ability to experience these other lives, these other realms. You know, I spoke about the pineal gland earlier, and we know that, you know, it can be calcified, and you can do things to, you know, lessen the calcification. And, you know, you're right to give solutions. And what I would say is that before you even, you know, do this type of, I don't know, meditation or, you know, therapy, you know, to, yeah, experience this, you know, just, yeah, just like, you know, just clean up what you're doing a little bit. You know, don't take things that are gonna, you know, calcify. You know, don't ingest fluoride. Don't drink, you know, tap water. You know, don't use aluminum. You know, try not to take products that have lots of pesticides or, you know, heavy metals on them, and just, you know, try and be a decent human being. Think, you know, more higher vibrational thoughts. And
It's almost like an
once
engine.
again, this,
Oh, go ahead.
you know, Yeah, and when people talk about like, you know, like high vibration, people think, oh yeah, that's like, you know, spiritual, you know, hocus pocus again. I implore you to watch a documentary called Kymatica. I'll just look into, you know, yeah, kymatics, and it's an actual fact that there's actually thoughts are tangible and thoughts can be projected, and you know, particles change in fluids when intent is forced towards them under like under a really powerful, you know, microscope. You can see this. You know, this is real. You know, again, I'm probably to look it up. So
Actually proves spirituality, because spirituality in essence is the synchronization of all. So a life force, period, a life force. And cymatics shows objectively for all to see that we're all synchronized. Sand is synchronized with water, which is synchronized with gas, etc., etc., etc. Shapes can be made in synchronicity between things that would be, I guess, from a layman's eye, a kind of unconnected, unconnected things. But once the kind of the experiment is undertaken, you can see for yourself that we're all just kind of one. I guess these are the things that are hidden from the mass man, of course, for obvious reasons, just as we were saying just now, because they're just too potent. But it's keep going.
it's so true. I mean, it's so hard to be interested in fucking Fast and Furious 18 when you're aware of, you know, the fact that, I don't know, like, yeah, like this plane that we live in, like you said, that there is no, you know, actual, you know, space, and there's a whole load of stuff going on in the space between, you know, our ears. It's like, the joke is, and this is part of like the Masonic mockery, is like they're going to have you looking up at the sky, gazing at the so-called stars. You know, these things are allegedly billions of light years away, but we'll get there. Maybe episode, you know, 23 will probably, you know, crack that egg. But they have you like, you know, looking up when essentially everything, you know, there's so much to be learned from, you know, within. And accessing, you know, that Akashic memory and those Akashic records. And there are people that are into other things. I mean, there's shortcuts that people take, i.e., DMT, ayahuasca, other psychedelics, mushrooms, mescaline. You know, they're different things that people use. They're not things that I'd necessarily recommend or have, you know, much experience in. But you know, there's a lot of compelling evidence to show that that can maybe give one an insight. But if one thing in life has taught me that, you know, doing things you know, organic as possible in a pure way generally tends to be the best way. Patience is generally a virtue, although, you know, sometimes fortune favors the brave as well. There are very few absolutes in this world. So do what suits you. But it's something that's a species we should look at, and we should realize, you know, what's important in life. And things like the existence of other realms, existence of, you know, what we can actually do with our minds, and where we can go and where we can travel, and what we can see and what we can experience, and, you know, and why we're here, which isn't what most of us are experiencing. Most of us are in like a form of slavery.
People enslave themselves, and I guess through the words of Shia LaBeouf, just do it, which is essentially what you're saying. You know, in order to grasp the things that we're talking about now, and I guess our audience members know this to an extent, because otherwise they wouldn't be tuning into the podcast. So, you know, it takes the idea already has to be there for them to, I guess, input these notions into the search engine and come up with these kinds of materials. Obviously a step ahead, but and they should be able to um, kind of comprehend what we're saying when we speak about, you have to change your environment. You have to do things, I guess, that are less conventional in order to open up more. Because it's kind of it's a continuous progression. If you do the same thing every day and you lead the same kind of life, and you don't try and taste new foods, have new drinks, go for different walks, try new sport, anything that you wouldn't ordinarily, if you don't try and do it, you're not going to unlock a kind of more innovative outlook on life. And without innovation, you can't separate yourself from the rest of the pen. You just get sucked in deeper and deeper into all the other kind of sheep around you. It becomes more difficult to see the light through all that wool, and that's really the crux of it. I mean, like, it's, what we're saying is 100%, I think, valuable. Who knows if it's truth, if it's absolute truth? It's definitely truth. It's our truth. But like you said, very few things are absolute. But it still has value, I think, to kind of spark that kind of practical element. I don't know what I'm saying exactly. I'm playing with my feet and flicking a USB cable at the wall, but the point is, of course, just you need to move. You need to keep moving mentally, and to move mentally, you have to move physically. The body is one; it is a machine. Everything works in coordination with the rest, just like the kind of cymatic show. We're all kind of synchronized with all that is around us. It's a symbiosis, and we need to act on that and utilize that resource. Once one understands that everything is connected, it's like, okay, if you wake up and have a glass of Coca-Cola, then you have like a bowl of broccoli, cashews, peanuts with a nice dab of, I don't know, honey. One's defeating the other. You have to work together. You have to have good fluid, good food, good exercise, be in a good environment where the air is clean. Of course, you don't have to do them all. It's still beneficial to do as many as possible, but it all comes together just like a jigsaw in the end. And the more doors that are open, the more doors you allow yourself to see through. It kind of, I'm sorry, I'm watching a mosquito as well. I'm so distracted.
Yeah.
The point stands. It wasn't too poorly articulated. It was good enough.
Yeah.
I'll give it out of 10.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, just do it. And like he said, there are many, things there's guidance that you can get to do it. There's, various YouTube channels. You guys aren't idiots. You know how to search things on the internet. I mean, maybe for subscribing to, yeah. Anyway,
just here for the black pussycat, which is our logo. I was going to say black pussy, but then I thought YouTube might censor that.
Yeah, you can't say anything like,
Oh, by the way, sorry, let me tell you something really quickly. I just discovered that's actually true, like objectively true. It's not even a shadow ban conspiracy, which actually also is. But I was doing those AdSense things recently. So basically, long story short, subscribers and you, James, I've been experimenting with this little loophole on my actual channel by promoting videos for 1 US cent, which is 0.7 of a penny, for 12 months of ad. And YouTube keeps coming back to me Google comes back to me from time to time saying the title of your video is inappropriate. So I do so many of these, I forget. So then I go on the video that they link me, and it's literally, I've got a video of just me petting a cat in wherever, Brazil, and the title of the video is petting black pussycat, but you're not allowed to say pussy. So the fact that is banned on ad revenue for an ad shows that YouTube will never allow a video to be promoted, even when words that aren't swear words, aren't bad, are being used in the video, because then they don't get ad revenue for people watching the video. Therefore, there's no incentive for them to promote them. Obviously, Google and YouTube, it's one and the same. It's all one scam. But Google own YouTube. But that's just the fact. That's why people are so touchy now, which bothers me, I should just say. There are some channels that we watch. I'm not going to name them. They're great. But when people say, I don't want to say this word, it's like people are too scared to say the word Jew. It's like, why? You say Christian like 1,000 times. You say Muslim 1,000.
Muslim, yeah.
Why you say Jew? People are like, oh, I don't want to say the Jew. I'll get demonetized or whatever. You're literally sponsoring the agenda. If you don't, okay, you may. It's probably the case that you're not going to get promoted and monetized because you said Judaism or Jew or Israel or whatever. But you're literally sponsoring the very thing you're fighting against by not being honest. So I don't get why people do that. So please don't do that again, whoever those people are.
They only do it because of self-interest. Like,
Exactly.
it's like, yeah, but I just want to get paid. Like, so it's like they're trading, like, yeah, they're defeating their own objective, but they're like trading. They're talking about, what people are doing. I mean, in fairness to them, I suppose at least they've kind of highlighted it by saying they don't want to say it. Because I suppose that's kind of like saying it without saying it. So I suppose it's a bit smart. It's a way to kind of like yeah, outdo that algorithm if you've actually got a available channel that's been monetized. But I suppose also it makes sense that they want to keep on, getting their stuff out there. And if they get deplatformed, they have to maybe get a new channel with a new name. They need to get shown up again, and then they need to work their subscriber count again, etc., etc.
Yeah, but nah.
But
It's
what I find
okay.
ridiculous as well is that when like the word murder and like it's M*RDER, it's like what?
Yeah, but they'll show someone getting their head bashed open on a fucking YouTube short.
No, but not like that. I'm on about like just having the word like like if somebody's just talking about a murder case, it's like even those videos, like the U is like you can't say like that. Yeah, it's just so many words that you're like what? It doesn't make
I
any
think
sense.
it's also because I don't. YouTube have a different policy in each country, so every single country has. For example, I remember when I was younger in Spain, on Spanish news, you're allowed to show dead bodies, which you're not allowed to show in the UK, as
In
far
it,
as I'm aware.
yeah,
So I
you are,
think it's
especially
because
English dead bodies.
yeah, they want to monetize themselves in as many countries as possible, and there are certain countries where even those words are not allowed to be used. So they're just maximizing their revenue. But it's just fucking
Maximizing their censorship as
yeah,
well.
no, exactly. And it doesn't matter if they're a channel that's not particularly. I mean, it does matter to me, but for them, it shouldn't. It's not hypocrisy if their channel is not talking about censorship. But when it's actually a channel which is dedicated to discussing political censorship, and they won't say the word COVID or Jew or anything like that, it's just fucking ridiculous. Like, it's not as if their channel's ever going to get promoted to make any worthwhile money anyway. They're never going to get 100K. They're not going to get 50K if they're talking about other truthful things. If they've already spoken about truths, it's a permanent mark on their record. Google and YouTube are never going to promote them to any position of monetary value. Maybe they get like $20-$30 a month. But I think most of them are going for the subscriber count. That's what it is. It's like it's the Patreons rather than the YouTube revenue that a lot of people are focused on. It's not really about the YouTube check. It's about getting as many people on the channel.
Subscribe to their website or their Patreon, yeah.
Yeah. But there was a really interesting, not interesting actually, just a prominent point that was made by a Christian pastor. I don't know if one has to say Christian when they say pastor, because I think by default, if you're a pastor, you are Christian. So it was said by a pastor, and he said, the people that control us are the ones that we're too scared to name. If at any moment you feel you have to pause to say a certain word, a certain type of language, you feel gives you shivers or fear, or there's that anxiety, there's that pause before you open your mouth, or even if you go to the next extent of actually censoring your words, then I mean, that says it all. We know who it is that has the ultimate power. You can fucking shit-face Christians all day. You can fucking say anything against
Islam.
I mean, not to the extent, actually. I wouldn't say to the same extent. I mean, there's that they created terms like Islamophobia and anti-Semitism and these kinds of things. But there's what is it for Christianity? Do you even know the word? I don't. Is there?
I don't know. I don't know. There you go. It wouldn't be an atheist. It would be, yeah.
Yeah. So, for example, let's take Nigeria as an example. So, when Boko Haram go and murder a load of Christians, right? There's no word for it. But if a load of Christians beat up a load of Muslims, or actually, if a load of, like, I don't know, white Polish people beat up a load of Muslims, which probably does happen. They'd probably be branded as Christian by the media, but Islam
Yeah.
used, of course, racism would be used, all these kinds of words. But when it happens the other way around, there's no word for Christianity is one of the biggest religions in the world, and there's no word for hate against Christians. It always the narrative speaks for itself. We can see who holds authority, and the only reason Islamophobia was created as a term, it was to divide, to bring a wedge between those that have and those that don't. So the other religion, namely Judaism, that has a term, anti-Semitism, which has been around for a very long time and actually doesn't really make much sense because it includes Semite people, which incorporate Africa, Ethiopia, South Sudan, Eritrea, Djibouti, Palestine, even areas of Arabia up into Syria and Turkey, right? It's not specifically, it has no relation actually whatsoever in terms of the etymology to people of the Jewish faith. It is the term anti-Semite is to be against Semite people. Am I correct in that? I believe I am.
Yeah. So there is a word, but they never use it. It's called Christianophobia, and it's actually in the dictionary, or Christophobia. But it's like, yeah, you don't hear it.
Never one time. But the point I just wanted to make was, I think it's clear in any sphere, it doesn't have to be related to specific religious groups. It can be corporations. It could be you're on a high street and you've got big corporate interests running stores with heavy lawyers, and the smaller independents perhaps don't want to name the big boys, the big players out there because they're scared. They might get land grabbed. They might, I don't know, have an injunction brought against them. They might lose car parking space, or they'll be outmarketed. Who knows what it is? The point is, if at any point in your life, same at school when you've got a load of kids and you've got a big bully, if you feel like you have to walk 300 meters indirectly to your lesson because there's, you might interact with someone that you don't want to interact with on the way, that they're blocking the kind of directive, that's obviously the person that's the problem. And if you can't speak up or you can't mention certain words, those that you can't mention are the people that sway. Boom, boom, chicka. We went from genetic memory to that.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, their boy Brian is running that.
Oh,
he's like the peer-reviewed specialist in that field.
Peer-reviewed, a scanned-up system error, peer review. Just get all of your buddies that have been. It's a pyramid scheme. Peer reviewing is literally a fucking academic pyramid scheme. You get all your buddies who you
co-sign your
bullshit that gets pushed to the top, and then all the new boys then co-sign all their other brethrens, or the people that get promoted because they're sucking schlongs in the back office, and that's how they get their doctorates and PhDs and professorships. Yeah. My God, moving on. How was your weekend?
Yeah, it was fine. I went to it's like this Turkish restaurant with like terrible service, but the food was decent. Had like bulgur and monkfish and tiger prawns and stuff. And
that's good. What is monkfish?
It's just like a very meaty white fish. Yeah, it's like a very meaty white fish. Yeah.
And it's a monk. Do you think there's something Christian? What's it called? Christianophobia.
Yeah, Christianophobia or Christophobia.
They named a whitefish monk. What if you named a brown fish Allah?
Well, the thing is that would actually be haram because seafood, generally speaking, isn't halal. Generally speaking,
Same. It's not.
It's not haram, but it's not generally halal. It's what they call permissible.
I've heard that about vodka as well. A lot of Muslims and Kurds like drinking vodka because they say it's permissible.
Permissible.
Monkfish. Yeah, no, that does sound nice actually. There is something about that platter which sounds, I have to say, very inviting. But is it Turkish? I would have honestly, if you told me that selection, I would have immediately jumped to Southeast Asia, probably Thailand,
Yeah,
tiger prawns, monkfish, and what was the first
yeah.
thing?
I mean, you got to remember, it's like, there's like the sea there in the island, Turkey and Greece. There's like, a bit of water between them. There, seafood is part of their thing, like fish, calamari, these sorts of things, octopus.
I feel like it is
Yeah,
more. I feel like the Turks are stealing a lot of kind of Greek cuisine, and the reason I say this is because I think we all know Turkey's only got one dish.
kebab.
Yeah, we all know it's doner. We all know it's dirty, greasy, sweaty £5 doner that's come from probably a dog or a cat that's pasted with human feces at 4 a.m. in a fucking dodgy area of, I don't know, where's shit in London? Where's shit in London? I haven't been to London in so long. What's a shitty area?
Tottenham.
Tottenham. Yeah, Tottenham
Yeah,
is shit, actually. Enfield. We
fucking
go up there.
disgusting. Yeah.
Imagine 4 a.m. dodgy kebab shop, £5 a doner. You wouldn't want that. And I feel like that is Turkish food. I think Greek food more traditionally because of all the islands. That's when I think of Greece. I think of like pistachios and and yeah, all the seafood that they have, and Rhodes and Corfu and Sardinia. Sorry, not Sardinia. What's the one I'm thinking of? That's not in Italy. I can't remember now. But yeah, yeah. But that sounds nice. So that's what you're up to this weekend then.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was it. Yeah, I had a meal. What else? Oh, actually, yeah, I did. I went to Camden Town on Saturday. Um, yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, some strange people floating around there.
There are, yeah. Camden's one of those
Yeah,
places. It's dodgy, but I can't quite understand why, given how central it is. Surely all the property prices and rent prices there must be fucking millions. And yeah, you've
I
got
mean,
to climb to it.
the thing is that London is like very, because like before, like zone one, even in zone one, like you had people that bought, houses in like the 60s. Like it wasn't, overly like, it's just the population growth has been, quite exponential. And, like the zones are, kind of like just getting out further and further. So places that weren't classed as central, like, I don't know, Elephant and Castle, are now seen as fucking central great locations. Whereas like
An
Elephant
elephant
and Castle was just like a fucking
uh,
elephant, it was just like a council fucking place,
yeah,
a council area.
was a shithole before the Arabs started building those towers. And even then, it was still shit. I remember that, like 2014 was grim, man. You had that shopping
Yeah.
centre, one that the guy didn't want to sell, it was just a complete eyesore. You refused to like maintain it, and it was just like dripping with different paints and rusting. What was it called? I
I
think it
think
was
it
the,
was just called the Elephant and Castle
I
Shopping
think
Centre. I
it
think
was.
that
I
was
think it
it.
was. Yeah, it's grim, man.
Um,
Yeah, that sounds
and
cool.
now it's yuppie heaven. Brixton. All of these places that are just like used to be. So like Brixton's now like, yeah, key, location.
Tourist
It's just
hotspot.
all just it's artificial. It's just artificial, and it's just creating insane revenue.
But
Insane.
that's what cities are. Cities are just artificial. They're just filled with lunatics because it's just an addiction. And actually this goes back. This is perfect. This is a great gateway into the topic that we started with. So genetic memories and all that kind of stuff, and the kind of divide, the wedge that they want to peg in our own minds. Keep us affixed and pinned and prone to the things that don't really matter, i.e., the city life, the city buzz, which is again why there's always such a traditional, I shouldn't say that, but recent migration from countryside to city living, because you're always going to find, a kind of social existence that people, which is artificial, but people want and know the importance of like human spiritual connection. So there's that kind of assumption that in places where there's more people, they're going to find it because they couldn't attain it elsewhere. Because again, there's that disconnect where we're taught, religion is nonsense, and traditional family unity is nonsense, having kids is nonsense, all these things. It's got to all be about the fast-paced living. You know, individualism is about you. It's about your self-interest. It's about, you know, what color clothes do you want to wear tomorrow? It's about, you know, being sexually expressive. It's about being marketable. It's about, you know, putting yourself amongst as many other people as possible, and that's going to give you the most value, you know, to be used and abused and to essentially prostitute yourself. That's what people do nowadays for the most part. They prostitute themselves, and they live in these cities where, you know, they find themselves paying 12 fucking grand a year rent or whatever for next to nothing, and going out every night, getting wasted, going to restaurants. But, you know, because there's so many people there, there's always that buzz. There's enough energy to keep them going. But at the end of it, they didn't gain anything. There's no investment. There's no return on, I should say, what they felt was an investment. You know, it's just a 60-year-old in Camden at 1 a.m. with his or her buddies that they were drinking with in 1984 in the exact same neighborhood. It's just now everything costs 20,000 times more for a drink. It's interesting because I watched that guy. I can't remember his name. What's he called? His channel is The Wandering Turnip. It's a kind of new one. It's one of those things that flash up on the YouTube algorithm, and I wonder why it flashed up on the YouTube algorithm, because it's looking into his channel, the demise of the high street, the demise of the UK, the demise of high streets as a whole, actually. And the house prices and flat prices in London were just fucking insane. Like, I remember his channel had an episode dedicated to finding the cheapest flat to buy in London and finding the cheapest house to buy in the whole of London. So that was zones 1 to 7 about a year ago. And I think the cheapest house was about £500,000 in the
Oh, no. You can definitely get them cheaper than that. You
No,
can
but
definitely.
what house? The whole of London
Yeah,
house. The whole
100%.
house. I'm not sure, man. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no. My friend just sold his 3-bed for less than that.
Well, in London.
Yeah, 100%. Zone 4. Zone
What?
4.
Less
Yeah.
than 500,000 for a house in zone 4.
I'll go on right move right now and right, let's
Is it though?
sorry, say that again.
Is it at least? That can't be right. In London, mate, for less than 500 grand in London for a
Right.
house.
Let's just right. A year ago. Right.
Not lease ones though, not like 100-year lease or
Yeah.
200.
By okay, DA Southeast London. Right, here we go.
Okay, mate, is like fucking got to be like 200 and fucking something.
So 2-bedroom terraced house, 450.
Yeah, where in London?
3-bedroom terraced house, 360.
No, but are they auction? Are these auction ones as well?
No. This is on the market today. Yeah, this is an auction. This is just it's a buy. Yeah, on the market, literally on the open market. You can get a 4-bedroom detached for 525.
Where in London are these places? They must be.
Yeah, it's gettable. You can get a 2-bedroom flat for 250, and
where in London?
You can get a flat for 150. You can actually get a flat for 150.
These all will have catches for sure. Where in London are these places?
Southeast, Bexley, Greenwich.
Greenwich?
Yeah. When I say the borough, yeah.
I'm suspicious of this. I'm suspicious. I want to know what's wrong with this house.
Yeah, no, it's definitely it's definitely true. And obviously the bottom and at the top end, it can go up to 600, 700, 800. Someone's got someone that's really amazing. They've added to it. Could go up to $1 million. But yeah, I'd say so 350 for a small place, and then it just kind of like goes up from there. But a lot of people like about 10, 11 years ago, they were buying stuff for like 165, 150.
Yeah. Fucking 65. This sounds,
Yeah,
mate.
yeah,
I'm deeply traumatized by.
yeah. 12 years ago. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Um,
Well, point still stands that city life is a shithole.
but
It
it's
puts people on a ladder, and that's why it's called the property ladder, because it's a system of just infinite climbing, and then you realize that you've reached so high you can't see where you came from, and there's no way you can go any further because the sky is the limit. The sky is the sky, and yeah,
or you could just buy a place, make it your sanctuary. Have imagine like got a few people together, bought a 4-bedroom place, used half of it for business, the other half to be amongst like-minded people, maybe even start a family or something, and then you
yeah,
can literally be the king of your castle.
yeah, but it's not Castle, and the zombies, as we've seen from Shaun of the Dead, do not struggle to get through fucking London property windows. Um, and at the same time, as we know, when shit hits the fan, which is this year. Oh, that's what I wanted to say, by the way, as well. Um, Year of the Green Dragon. Green is the color of evil. That is this year. But the when shit hits the fan, when there's a dystopian kind of climax, there's no water in the taps, and even if there was, I wouldn't drink it because it'd be poisoned. You can't go outside. There's fucking zombies everywhere, whether that's metaphorical or actual. There's going to be criminals nonetheless wandering around. It's not going to be safe. Um, why do people want to bring their kids up in a sea? I just don't understand it. I just don't. I've never really got it. It just what is the fucking reason? I think it's ultimate narcissism why people live in cities. Or is it just like, I mean, you live in a city, obviously, but like I'm talking about the average person, like people that just like, want to settle down in the city, got a couple of kids, breathing in the smog and the polluted air every day, eating all this polluted food, it's overpriced. It's just it is an addiction to consumerism. It's a form of consumerism, even if you don't consume literally, it's a form of braggery and ego to live in a city because that's the only purpose for city living. Unless you're
Mm,
like, to choose, I guess there's a difference between living as a choice and being born there. That's I guess one thing. If you're born,
yeah, exactly. Two very different things. So, like the people that were born have way more of a reason, but the people that move in, yeah, maybe you might have a point there because they're actually seeking it. Whereas, and once again, this is where that knowledge of self comes in because you could be born in, a city, but like, ancestrally, your people are from, I don't know, somewhere more rural. I don't know. Maybe you're like third generation London, but your family were like from Cornwall originally and, were farmers. And 100 years ago, more or less everyone was, living like a more, a less industrial. Okay, maybe let's go back to the reset. Let's say what, like maybe 200 years ago, 180 years ago or so. I'm sure most people would have been living like a fairly agricultural life. Just like working the land to get certain things where people got their water from, and the sorts of foods people would barter in, and and most people probably had like active gardens where they grew some kind of produce, or there were like apple trees people would go and like grab things from. um and having that knowledge of self would make you naturally want to be more self-sufficient because you'd know that everything in the supermarket is pretty much poisonous, or at the very least you would take measures against ingesting that poison. Like, I've got things that I use to help me remove pesticide from the food that I eat, etc.
you
Yeah, a bit of baking soda,
think soda into
bicarbonate of
your food.
soda.
You mix it into your food.
No, you use it to wash. You just get a solution, like a teaspoon of it,
Is it for my
dissolve it
tea?
in the water, and then you rinse. Yeah, and then that will take off at least like 80% of the pesticides. And yeah, then you just rinse it off very well afterwards. And like patience is a virtue. Doing all of these, taking extra precautions that might make a meal, 5 minutes, I don't know, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes longer to prepare. it's worth it. Times that over, hundreds of mils in your life, you've saved your body from a lot of free radical damage, etc.
So broccoli.
Save
I
your
know you eat
brain,
broccoli.
stop yourself injecting neurotoxins, and more space to achieve these other states of consciousness.
Wait, so you take your broccoli out the pack, you then what will wash it with
No,
tap
so
water?
so you put it in a
Well, give
sieve.
me a
You
run
put it in a sieve.
through.
Yeah.
You take the broccoli out of the plastic. What do you do next?
Yeah, or it might not be in plastic because sometimes you can just pick, all depends. But yeah, take out the plastic. But broccoli isn't something that I buy because it's a hybrid cruciferous vegetable. It's not naturally occurring. Yeah, it's basically all just GM. Pretty much all broccoli is kind of like that's.
Okay, so what
I tend
about
to not buy it, but let's just say my kale. So I'll buy some kale. I'll put it in the colander or the sieve. You can different ways to do it. You can sprinkle a bit of baking powder over all of it, and then you rinse it and massage it. You rinse it, massage it in thoroughly. You rinse it thoroughly, and yeah, it makes a world of a difference. Just make sure that you rinse it thoroughly.
you massage? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Remove all the stalks. So there's indigestible fiber in it, and yeah,
When
just it's just the just I think it's important for people to educate themselves on what they on nutrition and what goes in, because it's like everything is I mean, food's important. They say you are what you eat to an extent. I ate a Snickers bar not too long ago, so yeah.
fuck, that is impressive. You need to get a t-shirt, James. Just you massaging kale.
I massage kale. I massage broccoli. I massage spinach. But yeah, you just kind of caress the leaves
No,
and
but you are right, of course. But isn't there like a better way to do it? Like, I mean, I guess that's probably the most
the
efficient.
best way to do it is to grow your own, buy organic. But even the stuff that you buy is organic, it's like there's a range. It might be that they get to that you're allowed to use very mild pesticides. It's like what they might call, it's even the stuff that's supermarket organic. It's like I don't believe that it's necessarily 100% pure. There's lots of things that are called organic that aren't, necessarily purified or healthy. They're just, but they're better. So, but yeah, that's the start.
I was
But yeah,
watching
the
a channel.
best.
I was watching a channel related to this, and it's a guy that's super on it when it comes to being conscious and cautious of how you eat and making sure you're doing your utmost to intake just nutritional, things with nutritional value over stuff that is going to be detrimental to health. And he went really deep into it, and he said like, and this is a guy whose profession is orientated around doing his utmost to keep himself in shape and his family in shape. He was buying fucking hay, right? He was buying fucking hay from a farmer who was organic, really, like a friend who would cut hay and he would feed the hay to his fucking animals, and then they would cull the animals and consume the flesh. And it turned out that the runoff from miles away, so groundwater, was essentially being contaminated from the runoff of
Oh
an
yeah,
that was so far away that was using pesticides, so that would run off into the valley, and then the hay, the grass in his pasture was feeding off of this water which had pesticides in it, and then he was culling this grass organically in his mind because there's he's not using any chemicals, selling his hay to this guy who was feeding the hay to his animals, who was then killing the animals and consuming the flesh. And when they tested this meat, it still contained pesticides or contained this chemical process. And that is like, this is the problem. Like, even if you had a little allotment in London, I mean, even if it was the cleanest ground, then you look at the rain and where the rain, the water that's
yep,
evaporating, the clouds, all that shit, going, and then, just the general air and all the little particles, the microparticles of plastic that's being released into the fucking atmosphere, all the fucking chemtrails and all that stuff. It's just fucked. That's why it's as far away as possible. The height better, actually, to be honest. Then you have to worry about things like runoff, and you're above the kind of atmospheric pollution for the most part, which is Kyrgyzstan. Yeah, I think it's the best place in the world. Oh.
Better than Germantown.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. By the way, I'm so impressed, man, with this place. It's perfect, and it really goes to show, without going into another episode, which I guess is another topic, just like how. Oh, man, right. I sent you a message, didn't I, earlier? It only just occurred to me when I sent you that message when I was eating that ice cream, but which, by the way, was really fucking overpriced. I think they fucked me on that, but they weren't German at the counter. There's not a single gay person in this town, and there's nothing wrong with being gay. I'm just making a point that usually in today's society, it's obviously in your face because that's what they want. There's always an LGBT flag everywhere. There's always a corporation which adheres to, because all corporations obviously operate by the same individuals. So they implant a flag on your fucking credit card or on the fucking bank banner or on the necklace of the staff behind the fucking cashier desk. In Brazil as well, it's a very flamboyant place, sizably. And I've just come from Rio and Sao Paulo, and it's in your face fucking everywhere. Everyone sounds like they're from California times 20. I haven't seen a single LGBT flag in Santa Catarina yet, and I'm in Pomerode at the moment, north of Blumenau, which is the most German place in the whole of Brazil. I haven't seen a single person even dressed in a camp way. I haven't heard a single camp voice, and I have not seen a single person that is expressively lesbian or homosexual. Everything is very 1950s, 1960s.
Although tomorrow could be the day of the big parade you never knew about.
No, there's definitely not in this place. Absolutely. Do you know how crazy advanced this place is, right? In terms of its moral caliber, in terms of the attention to detail and the passion and the love that people have for where they live. This is a really crazy detail, but the city or the town is quite sparse. So because it's obviously originally a farming town, people's homes are separated quite far from the center, and I'm really far from the center. I have to take an Uber to the center.
All a really small population as well.
Small population, it's just spread, but the roads are sizably fucking block paved. So when you think of a block paved driveway where each block is hand put in, we're talking about like miles and miles of just stretched block, which just costs a fortune and isn't practical to maintain because obviously HGVs will eventually kind of cripple these kinds of roads. The blocks will cave and crumble, and like the weight of them will create potholes and puddles will form, and drainage will be inconsistent. But like when you see stuff like that, a place as well. So like I would say only maybe like 20% of the area of Pomerode is tarmacked. It's more in Blumenau, which is the biggest city, but like the extent of the block paving is madness. I know it sounds like a really weird thing to point out, but it's attention to detail. People wouldn't tolerate just nice, clean cut tarmac. Everything's really pretty because people take pride in where they live. Like everyone, there's cycling lanes. Everyone has little bicycles. Everyone knows each other. I haven't seen a single piece of trash. I haven't seen a single LGBT flag. I haven't seen anything that is not related to these people's community. So all you see is some Brazilian flags, but usually wherever you see a Brazilian flag, you've got 5 different flags. You've got a flag for Pomerode, you've got a flag for Santa Catarina, you've got a flag for Brazil, you've got an Austrian and German flag. It's just like the pride that people have for like who they are and where they live is crazy. They're even using, this is where a bit weird actually, and this is a bit backward this is what's nice, by the way, about the people here, because they're not really Germans. So obviously Brazilians, being of Portuguese heritage, are quite renowned for being more laid back and chill. So it's a very nice balance of like efficiency, but family efficiency, because obviously South Americans, Portuguese, Spanish are very family orientated, very like it's all about love and like hugging, and people are very sensual and that kind of thing. So that combined with the German has created quite a nice equilibrium, you could say. And the buses they use are still 1970s buses, so obviously they're quite polluting, but they use them, and I know this is why they use them, because obviously they can fucking afford to buy new ones or get secondhand Japanese cleaner ones in. It's because they're original German buses and bought in the 70s, and they all say like Volk something on the side. So it's really weird. You have this transition of like everyone's obviously got card machines, and like technology, you know, is pretty good when it comes to electronics, and it has banks everywhere, everything looks very clean and smart and German. And then you have all these little classical houses, which are obviously not as energy efficient. It's a symbol of their value and their culture. So they're happy to maintain the old 1920s, 1930s, 1940s, 1950s home, keep them as
Could
they
it just be? Could it just be like a Cuban, like communist kind of like, let's,
No, it's definitely not
uh,
communist, but it is good you
uh,
brought up, because there's a lot of occultism here, as you would expect.
okay.
Thing is rotary.
Yeah, I mean, it had to be. I mean, obviously, it's probably like loads of Operation Paperclip.
I guess
FAPs.
Oh, James, I wanted to go into this. So I got the see back. There's so much money here, huge industries, huge research centers run by companies like Bosch in this village.
Yeah.
Huge research centers out in the like sticks in the countryside. You'll be driving along and you'll just see a massive Bosch research center with fucking high security and everything. And everyone here, it feels a bit culty, I'll be honest, but that's usually what you expect, because these communities were created in the first place. If I'm taking and winging it, I would say Masons, not the highest Masons, but Masons, billionaires, millionaires responsible for fucking the rest of us up, obviously want to live with a kind of homogenous community, people that are aesthetically and culturally similar to them. So I think there's always a deal cut where you've got the chief. I was going to say a word then. Not, I wasn't going to say chief rabbi, but if you had those people at the top of the chain and they're minions, but still powerful minions, I feel like a deal was cut where it's like, okay, so you help us fuck up this part of the world, and you get to live anywhere in the world, and you can take like a couple of thousand of your community, your people with you, and you can rebuild it. That's the vibe I get from these kind of culty places.
Oh, a 1,000,000%.
Yeah. That's how they spring out of nowhere. They just seemingly spring out of the jungle, like these amazing, like, microcosms where everything just functions perfectly, and there seems to be infinite capital. And everywhere you look, there is Rotary Club. Rotary Club. This statue was built by the Rotary Club. Oh, look, Masonic. There's a globe everywhere. I've got some videos I'll send you from Blumenau. Literally, so many statues of hands with a big fat globe in them, which I see everywhere in the world as well, in Masonic communities. So yeah, but they're everywhere, man. The Masons are everywhere. Just I'm still kind of like on the fence. I don't know how many people are involved, but I think it's reached the point where it's been going for such a long time, the resets, that's kind of like it's like just a tradition. People aren't even aware that are complicit and involved in the masonry. They just see it as like normality. It's just normal to them. It's still a secret. It's still like secret, hushy hush. Don't tell anyone. But it's almost like a kind of family joke.
But I don't see the big
Most
picture.
don't get it.
All of them don't. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But they're all still part of it. Like the clubs, the clubhouses.
They're part of it, but they're the expendable parts of it.
Yeah, exactly. But it is fascinating, and I have to say, what a lovely place to live. Like, really, it's not. I think it's nice. It's got the Brazilian Portuguese balance, because, I think if it was completely German, it would be obviously dull. Let's be honest. But it's just these kind of communities are nice. I've seen them in lots of places. Saw them in Pakistan, and we were in Afghanistan. There are some places where, it's just fucking nice, man. It's nice being able to walk down the street not thinking you're going to get fucking stabbed. There's something nice about that.
Or hitting the fucking head with a hammer by a homeless
the head with a hammer, punched in the face in a bar, had my phone, they tried to take my phone. Yeah, it's so many things, man. It's horrible. Why do people live in these environments? But anyway, how long is our it's still recording? Oh wait, James, I'm not recording anymore.
Yeah, don't worry, I got it. An hour and 20 minutes.
Okay, we'll have to end it because my recording just is processing now. So I just ran out of memory at 118.
Okay, all right. Well, yeah, luckily mine still is. Yeah, thanks for listening to our ramblings. I hope you took something from this. I hope you do it. I hope you look into PLT, past life transition, past life regression, live more healthily, open your minds, yeah, and do more things.
And don't transition from who you are. In fact, take the term transition, wrap it up in paper, and throw it at the base of the trash can. Because I can't remember what's going to.
And regression is not something you want to do either. Don't regress in life. You want to progress. But yeah, delve into the Akashic records. How's about that?
Perfecto. I will, yeah, I'll speak to you soon, James. And yeah, all the best to everyone. Good luck to life, and we'll see you on the next episode.
All right, adios.
Adios.